Hey guys, my name is Brandon and welcome to or welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you like what you see in here, you're more than welcome to hit the subscribe button so you stay notified every time I upload a new video. Okay, let's get straight on with today's video. Hey everyone and welcome back to Is That More Brandon. So in today's video I'm going to be doing a review to Series 3 of the Traitors 2024 Episode 6. So, at the end of the last episode, we found out that the Traitors were either going to murder Fozia, Anna or Livy, probably because Anna's already in the spotlight of being murdered. Fozia's one of the new players that they don't really want to be able to start analysing the game, and if they were to get rid of Livy, the story about Freddy being a traitor becomes even more true because it's almost like he's then murdered Maya and Livy as well. At the beginning of the episode, Mina and Linda were having a conversation and they basically said that they had another successful day. Leon explained that they lost a good guy yesterday in Tyler, and Charlotte, Leanne and Leon were all talking, with Charlotte saying why would she play the game if she can't lie, talking about Lisa because obviously she's just come out as a priest. Dan said that he kind of feels bad because he rallied a lot of people to go against Tyler, so he's hoping that, you know, people won't go for him. At breakfast we found out that Fozia, Mina, Liv and Anna hadn't come back yet, and then we found out that Fozia, Mina and Anna all came back to breakfast, which meant that Livy was murdered. Freddie said that there was no heat on Mina at all, so he thought she was definitely going to come back. Leanne questioned as to whether Anna would come back, and yeah, Francesca said if Linda or Livy were to get murdered, Francesca said to Linda that if Livy was to get murdered it would throw her, and then we found out that Livy was murdered. Freddie said, you're taking the piss, because obviously now that's going to put the heat on him even more. And Linda said that she loved Livy, and she has to obviously cry to make it look realistic that she missed her. And when Livy obviously left the game, she said, thank you, Freddie. He's probably in there telling people that he's been set up. And Dan said that she was such an obvious faithful, so kind of as to why did they get rid of her from the game. Freddie also said again that it now looks like that he's got rid of these people in order to silence them from the game. And Jake looked over and questioned why is Linda crying, with Leanne talking to Charlotte also questioning why is Linda crying. So a few people are like, it's not real tears, it doesn't look like she's actually genuinely upset. So yeah, Jake, Leanne jumped onto that very quickly. Jake also explained that Linda had told him previously that she's not an emotional person, and there's more and more things about her that are proving that she's actually a traitor. Mina explained that Linda overdid it with the performance and that if you're going to cry you need to do it properly with tears. And Claudia came in and said obviously it's time for everyone to be honest with each other, and on the theme of honesty it's time for a mission. Now this was a very interesting mission, but there's still a few bits of chat before the mission actually happened. Leanne, Charlotte and Freddie were all having a chat, and I think as Leanne walked past Dan she just said he's been acting weird from last night. Anna said that she needed to get her secret out. She mentioned it to Fozia and Francesca, but Fozia said, well hang on, why didn't you tell us yesterday? And she said, I don't think I was ready for it. I'm starting to tell selected people. And yeah, Fozia was just a bit confused as to why Anna didn't tell them that previously, because actually now is she a traitor? They will never know. Dan was also speaking to Francesca and he said that he struggled yesterday, and he's unsure as to why he's still there. Either he's close to a traitor, such as Mina for example, or they think he's a joke and they're just keeping him in the game for a bit of fun. Alex, Freddie, Joe and Fozia were having a chat, and Joe potentially said that he was going to wait for Linda again, and Alex questioned whether Linda and Livy were even close, and yeah, people were not really sure about that. And yeah, Alexander said that potentially there was a bit of a risk of crocodile tears, kind of pretending to cry but not actually crying, but to make it look like you actually cared about the person that just left the game. Leanne said that Linda's emotions at breakfast were just weird. Joe said he was scared for the mission. And when they got to the mission it kind of looked like they were in some like weird god Egyptian like grid thing, with Claudia being brought down from, because she was on people's shoulders, two big guys. So she was brought to the ground and she was like, my sons. So that was quite funny. Basically the aim of this mission was to keep hold of your shield, and what they had to basically do, so however many of them were left, there was going to be two names pulled out of a hat, and together they had to decide someone to mark, and that person that they marked would lose their shield if they guessed incorrectly, But if the person that was marked guessed either one of the two that marked them, then the two that marked them would both lose their shields. So it basically kept going, 2 names in a hat, mark, person got it wrong, out, or person got it right, they stay in, then the 2 that marked got out, and eventually it got whittled down to 6, and eventually it got whittled down to 3. But it was a very interesting game, and I'm going to go through as much of what I can remember as possible. So yeah, they had to guess who they thought didn't want them to have a shield, and basically it didn't really matter, but obviously it was going to get found out later on anyway. So first up was Joe and Fozia. Also everyone was blindfolded, so nobody actually could see anything until after the marking had been done, once the blindfold had been lifted, and also when they were marked, they had phalanxes or chalasis, or whatever it was called, thrown over their head, so it was just like loads of black stuff. So Joe and Fozia had their names pulled out first. They decided to mark Anna because they basically thought that she isn't going to guess either of them. And Fozia basically said to Joe that Anna was hiding a secret, so they should just go for her because she doesn't really deserve to keep the shield. Anna guessed that it was Dan, which was incorrect, which meant Anna lost her shield and she was out of the mission. Up next was Leanne and Alexander. They picked Jake. Jake thought it was Linda. That was incorrect. And yeah, Jake lost his shield and was also out of this part of the game. And then we had a few more losses. So Mina and Joe picked Freddie. Freddie thought it was Alex. Incorrect. Dan and Charlotte picked Joe. Joe thought it was Linda. Incorrect. Lisa and Alex chose Leon. Leon chose Fozia. Incorrect. Dan and Leanne chose Mina. And when Mina turned around, she looked both Leanne and Dan in the eye separately. She said, Dan, was it you? He said, no. Leanne, was it you? No. She was like, okay, good. And then she ended up picking Francesca and she was wrong. Obviously it was Dan and Leanne, but they weren't going to say that. Up next was Lisa and Leanne, and they chose Alexander. Alexander guessed that it could have been Lisa, but wasn't going to go for her. He went for Leanne, obviously that was correct. So Leanne lost her shield, and because Lisa was working alongside Leanne, Lisa also lost her shield. Dan and Alex chose Francesca. Francesca questioned as to whether it was Alex, but it wasn't Alex, so she ended up losing her. I think she went for Alexander. I think it was one of the Alexes. Yes, it was Dan and Alexander, and then she went for Alex, or it was Dan and Alex and she went for Alexander, something like that. And then we found out there were 6 players left. Charlotte and Linda went for Alex. This is pink hair Alex. He thought it was Dan, so he ended up losing his shield. Fozia and Alexander chose Linda, and Linda correctly guessed that it was Fozia, so Fozia and Alexander both lost their shields. So in the end, the final 3 people standing were Linda, Traitor, who obviously didn't need a shield, Charlotte and Dan. So Charlotte and Dan both received a shield from immunity of being murdered that evening, and also £5,000 was added to the prize fund, and yeah, they received immunity from the murder. Dan asked both of those girls, is anyone going to be honest about who picked who? And Linda basically said straight away, I don't think so, no. And Dan spoke to Alexander, asking whether he'd spoken to Francesca, and Dan said that if he was going to tell Francesca, to just say that it was him and not mention that it was Dan, and that, you know, in the games people can do what they want. Alexander spoke to Francesca and said it was me, but it was a joint decision. I'm obviously not going to reveal who the other person is because that's part of their game plan. Leanne pulled Mina into a room and said, look, I can't look you in the eye, but it was me and Dan. And Mina started crying, saying thanks for telling me, and she was disappointed in Dan that Dan hadn't told her. So I think it's a bit of a weird one, because you've got to think at this point, Charlotte's immune from being murdered, Dan's immune from being murdered, so at this point the traitors want one of those with a shield to get banished, because then that's one more target that they have later on. So if they get rid of Charlotte, then only Dan is protected. If they get rid of Dan, only Charlotte is protected. Whereas if someone completely random gets banished, that's 2 people extra that are coming back to breakfast, kind of thing. So yeah, it's not that they had a plan to get rid of one of the ones with immunity, but it just happened that they had immunity and they also kind of had targets on their back anyway. So yeah, for Leanne to be honest with Mina, kind of, I guess, put her in the red, put Dan in the red, and also just gave them something to play around with at the banishment table. Joe and Freddie had a chat, and Joe basically said that most people seem to have gone off Freddie now, and Joe said that with the whole Linda situation being picked, Francesca's quite angry that she picked Francesca, but obviously I don't think Linda's even told her yet. Jake said he's going to be going full force on Linda. He's convinced that she is a traitor. Mina said that Linda potentially is going to be at risk, but Dan broke her trust, so she's probably going to try and get one on Dan in order to kind of save Linda a little bit. And Anna said that she wants to unveil her secret. and have her place in the spotlight to kind of shine the story. The round table, we found out that the total prize fund at the moment was £34,500, which is quite decent, but there's too many people left to split that between, so you want to kind of get rid of some more people, let that prize fund go up, and then make as much money as possible. Anna was the first one to talk on the table. She told her secret about receiving the letter from the Traitors and that she rejected their offer of her being a traitor. And she said that she needs to think about people that have thought about her being a traitor, because the way she explained it is that she said 2 days ago her name was being thrown around at the table by people like Dan, Alex, Linda and Lisa. 1 day ago her name wasn't mentioned at all at the table, and in between that's when she received her offer, and that's when it just started. She just went a bit behind the scenes. Jake also pointed out that Linda crying at breakfast over Livy being murdered was a little bit over the top. And she said, well no, me and Livy are like best mates in here. It was almost like it was like mother to daughter kind of thing. And Leanne said that Livy had actually brought her name up before, so they maybe weren't as close as Linda thought the two of them were. Fozia said that Linda seemed to be really quiet at the round table as well, so again, something suspicious there, and not just one voice, multiple voices talking about the same person. Francesca said that, you know, someone had marked her and was lying about it. I think she found out that Linda had nominated her, but the other person hadn't come and revealed themselves. And Dan was like, is it important? Does it really matter? And then apparently Alexander, Alexander came forward, because obviously he'd told Francesca that it was him, but wasn't going to reveal the other name. And Francesca said, what, Alexander, are you able to reveal the name? And he was like, well, no, because that's not part of the gameplay. Like, the other person didn't want me to reveal who it was. And then Dan just said, you know what, I'll put my hand up, it was me. And then they were all basically saying, oh, if you're a faithful, why didn't you say anything? Why did you have to hide it? And he basically just said, I'm playing my own game. I am an individual person. And yes, this is a team game, but I play the game the way that I want to play the game. So it's very brave for Dan to do that and step forward, and that's why I thought I liked Dan from the beginning. I still like Dan as now, but I think the fact that he is so independent and so individual, I guess, like he keeps mentioning about the autism, his brain works in a different way. He tries to separate gameplay from emotions and things like that, but in order for him to get further in the game, he does need to have people by his side, and having enemies or having people that don't like him or having people that are questioned by his gameplay, that's kind of not what you really want in the game, because any sort of enemy is bad, because then it puts a target on your back. The traitors can jump on it, other faithfuls can jump on it, and then it means targets away from who the target actually needs to be on, and it's actually on someone completely random, and then it completely just changes the game. So yeah, Dan kind of put himself and shot his foot there. So yeah, Alexander basically had said to Francesca already that it was him, and then yeah, Dan just said yeah, he did it as well. Mina also questioned why she was marked. Again, she knew that Leanne had told her, but she basically said to Leanne, I'm not going to tell anyone, I'm going to hope that, you know, Dan comes to me himself, which Dan didn't do. And she kind of again said, look, I know someone's marked me, you just need to be honest with me and tell me why you marked me. And I think she kind of said to Dan that I knew it was you, but again, he didn't completely say it was me, but she kind of had a feeling that it was him. Or I think she said, I knew it was you, I don't know why you couldn't just come and talk to me. So again, I'm sure he's probably questioning, well, hang on, how do you know? The only person that knows is Claudia and Leanne, so unless Leanne said something I haven't told you myself. And then Dan also came to terms thinking, well, actually, in terms of it being a traitor, is it somebody close to me who's kind of using me, keeping me in and befriending me, that's keeping me in and stopping me being murdered, or is it just someone that just thinks I'm stupid? I think that's kind of what he said earlier on as well. In terms of the votes, it was a bit of a mix. Charlotte and Jake both voted for Linda. Anna, for some reason, decided to go for Alex. Alexander went for Linda. Mina, Leanne and Leon all went for Dan. Dan went for Leanne. Linda went for Fozia. Francesca went for Alex. Joe went for Linda. And then Fozia, Lisa, Freddie and Alex all went for Dan. So unfortunately it was Dan that was banished, and he revealed also that he was a faithful. And again, everyone was very in shock. Francesca said, I knew it. I think some of the other players were like, you know, even though they didn't agree with the way that he was playing the game, he was playing the game, and he was a really good faithful. And just before it was announced, Mina said that it had to be him. Leanne said he was smirking, and after he'd revealed himself as a faithful and left the building, Claudia said, you've lost a good one there, because actually, although he played an individual game, he was such a strong faithful. He was probably talking to so many people, working out so many different game plans and things like that, that, you know, yeah, he was kind of undetectable apart from when he made a few errors and, you know, lied a little bit. But sometimes you have to lie and decept and deceive and things like that in a game in order to get a little bit further. But yeah, maybe he just overdid it a little bit. So, you know, some players were too loud, some players have been too quiet, some players are too dramatic, some players are not dramatic enough. So you can't really win. You kind of just have to be a nice person with strategy, or if you're a traitor, a nice person with a double bluff strategy. So yeah, I think it was just the fact that he was too nice. Charlotte said that's now 3 amazing guys in 3 nights that have been eliminated from the game. So obviously you've had Kasim, the doctor, Tyler, who again was completely innocent, just very vocal and very just, he was on the plan of getting rid of Freddie and then ended up voting against that. And then obviously now you've had Dan, who again played his own game, but played a good game up until now. Linda said to Francesca that she feels like she's been totally blindsided, and nobody said anything to her about them being suspicious of her being a traitor, and she said that she's just going to focus on herself now and focus on her own game. Francesca also said that she feels massively betrayed, but she still thinks that Dan was a traitor and she's going to stick by her vote. I mean, obviously he wasn't, but that's the whole reason she voted for him, because of the way he was acting properly throughout the game. We then found out that the traitors had a secret mission, and what they were going to do, there wasn't going to be a murder, but they were going to be choosing 4 players in order to play a deadly game where one of them would have their fate sealed by the end of it. The loser of the game would meet the traitors face to face, and basically what the 2 of them had to do, Linda and Mina, is they had to get the peacock quill from the library. So they had to just collect that from the library, and in the bar, in the kitchen area on the left, was a painting of what described what the next mini game was going to be. And they had to write the 4 names on the 4 boxes, I think it was. I don't know if it was the tombstones or the boxes. They had to write their names on those 4 boxes. It was more like a little comedy. If you would have put like funny backing music in the background, it would have been like a comedy, but you could see like Leanne, Fozia, I think you had Francesca, and there was somebody else in there like having a chat. I think Anna was in there as well. They were having a chat and whatever, and they wanted to make a sandwich, and then they wanted to go get snacks. And you could see them all walking around. You could see Linda walking past the library where the quill was, and then you could see the girls going off all to the kitchen. So Linda went in to try and find the quill. She couldn't find it, and then Mina came in to try and have a look, and she was like, "Have you found it?" "No." Right behind the door. And then obviously they've had to sneak into the kitchen, and Mina basically said to Linda, she was like, "Look, if you hear me coughing really, really loudly, it means someone's coming into the kitchen." Luckily she didn't need to cough really loudly, because she was basically in the kitchen with Linda the whole time anyway. And then you could see Fozia walking down the corridor trying to find where the bar was. I don't know if she'd been to the bar already, but she was walking from one room to another, and then she walked into the snacks room, and then she went into the library, and then whatever. And then I think she walked into a room which wasn't the kitchen, but looked like the kitchen. And then when the camera went back on the kitchen, obviously she wasn't there. So it was a bit like, are they going to get caught? Are they not going to get caught? Because it's like, they're playing such a good game. Well, Mina's playing a really good game. Linda's fine. I think she's just hovering, but people already have their suspicions on her. And she's nearly lost herself at the table like 3 times. But Mina is playing an amazing game. I think people will credit her for, even if she goes next, like, she's done an amazing job so far. I don't think she'll go. I think she'll get all the way to the final. She's done very, very well. And imagine if she actually wins it, or if she gets caught at the end. Don't know. But anyway, so yeah, Linda managed to write the names on the board, and Anna was basically talking to Fozia in one of the rooms. I think this is the library room where she was trying to get the quill from. And she was saying, we work so hard all day, earning money in missions, and then obviously nothing happens, there's no action, or we end up getting the wrong person out of the game. And obviously Linda and Mina were having a little discussion as to who they think they should nominate for this mission, with Linda saying that Jake might be a little bit too suspicious. And yeah, in the end they chose Leon, Alexander, Fozia and Anna. Yeah, basically you saw everyone leaving the castle, including the traitors, and you saw all the cars driving them back to their lodges, but you saw the four of them, Leon, Alexander, Fozia and Anna, being driven somewhere else, and they all kind of looked as if like, where are we going? Anna was like, what are we doing? Alexander said, this doesn't look great. Leon said, things aren't going to get any better from here. And you could see the 4 of them get out of their cars and look at each other like, I don't know why the 4 of us are here or what we're doing. And Claudia basically explained that they were going to be playing a game called Deathmatch, and they had been nominated to play the game by the traitors. And straight away Anna was like, why do they keep nominating me for things? So she wasn't very happy, and Claudia said at the end of the game one of them would be dead. In the game they literally had 2 cards in front of them, a death card which was just a red card, and a life card which was just a sun, like a bright yellow sun on a card. The life card will help them escape each round, and if they were not left with the life card they were just in the game until they got it. Obviously there was 3 rounds, so each round whoever had the sun by the end of the round was out, and all they had to do was choose a card from someone else, whether they wanted the card from their left hand or their right hand, and they could ask for the card from anybody. 1 turn, 1 chance to get it. are people bluffing, double bluffing, triple bluffing, who knows. So in the first round, Fozia had the sun in her hand, and she said, I'm lucky, like lucky me already, like I've started with the life card. Anna managed to take that card off. Obviously she can't see, they're just holding them up like this. It's like, do you want to pick the left or right, and who do you want to pick it off from? So Anna took that good card, and she said that she had to look disappointed because obviously she knew she's just taken that good card off Fozia. And then obviously it was Fozia's turn, and she was kind of like, well, hang on, if I get that card back, then the other two boys are going to know that that's the good card, and one of them is going to save themselves. Whereas actually, I think Anna deserves to be saved, especially after her situation with the whole round table earlier. So yeah, she didn't take the card off Anna, she took a card off someone else. And I'm sure Anna in her head was like, well, hold up, surely she knows I've got the good card because I've just taken it off her. So I think girl code right there was, yeah, she knows that. So at least if Fozia does survive, Anna will probably thank her a lot and be like, you know what, like, thank you very much for like saving me. So yeah, first round, the boys took off each other. I think Fozia took off Leon, and obviously it was Anna that was left with the good card, so she was safe. In the second round, Leon started with the life card, so I think Fozia took it off of Leon, Alexander took it off of Fozia, and then Leon took a dodgy card off of Alexander, and Alexander was left with the good card, so Alexander was saved. And then for the third round, it was either Leon or Fozia. Obviously Fozia's only been here for about 5 minutes. Leon's part of that said clique group that now have already lost Tyler and have already lost Livy, so it's technically just Leanne in that group. It literally was what, Leanne, Livy, Tyler and Leon. So if Leon goes, Leanne's on her own. If Fozia goes, then at least Leanne's got Leon, but who knows what's going to happen. And we also didn't find out what was going to happen in round 3 because the bloody episode ended. So all we found out is that either Leon or Fozia were going to get murdered. They were going to be able to meet the traitors face to face. So I don't know whether that was going to be like a video call, well no, not in a castle, probably not, but be able to meet them face to face to be like, look, it was us that that murdered you, and it was us that chose you for that game. But also the fact that they're going to potentially meet that person face to face, maybe they'll be given one final offer to be chosen or to be recruited as a traitor, as if like, you know, you're out of the game, you've been murdered, but you could actually come back as a traitor. So it's whether or not that's going to be an option, but let's see. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. And until my next review, which hopefully is coming very soon, I'm hoping the next episode is released shortly, then yeah, you'll see my review for that soon. But until then, thank you for watching and goodbye.